Good morning and welcome to this episode of the Limitless Landscapers podcast. This episode is all about giving away your time for free, and I think this might resonate with many of you. So, if you're interested, let's go to the show. Welcome to the Limitless Landscapers podcast, the podcast for owner-led landscaping businesses who want more profit, more control, and ultimately less stress. I'm Paula Warman, the Landscapers Coach, and after scaling a landscaping business to a team of 15, winning 38 industry awards, closing it when overheads became unsustainable, and rebuilding lean and profitable, I've learned this. Turnover doesn't build freedom. Profit, systems, and smart decisions do. And that's exactly what we talk about here on the Limitless Landscapers podcast, where limitless isn't larger, it's sustainability. Hello. It's a lovely, cool morning here in the UK, down south. How are you guys doing? Hope you're back for another episode of the Limitless Landscapers podcast. As I said in the intro, it is all about giving away your time for free. And I feel that particularly as landscapers, we do this often. And what I really am talking about here is your time spent on site visits, or quotes, as you would like to call it. So what I want to cover in this podcast is how much a free site visit is actually costing you personally and for the business, and how that it might be free for the client, but it certainly is never free for you. So it's kind of like a false economy, if you like. You're giving away quite a lot of yourself during a free site visit, not just travel and the cost that is now, and with rising costs everywhere, that's getting ridiculous. You've got your experience, your knowledge, your ideas, and sometimes you're giving them the solution before they've even committed to going with you. So today I wanted to explore whether landscapes and garden designers should really charge for initial site visits, or whether it's better to keep them free, basically, because that is the norm. And there was an actual conversation that prompted this entire episode. And I have talked about this in the past, probably quite a few years ago on the podcast, but it was a recent roundtable I held for garden designers that if you attended, thank you. It was amazing. If you didn't, you missed out. But essentially, we were discussing charging for initial consultations. And one designer, the amazing Helen, hello, Helen, if you're listening, explained that she actually charges a lot for her initial site visit. And she charges around £350 per initial site visit. Now, it was varied amongst the other designers on the call, from me being free, I suppose. Then you had people charging £50, £100, £150, and then Helen topped it at £350. And the guys in the room were completely amazed, and we were completely excited for her that she A, had the confidence to do this, and B, people are actually paying it. And that's really the key here. People are paying that sort of money because she's confident enough to charge that, and she believes in herself and her expertise to warrant that amount of money. Now, it doesn't actually matter how much you're charging per se. It's challenging the assumptions that clients won't pay for that expertise. They won't pay to meet us before they commission us to either design or build, or design and build their projects. But when people understand the value of the site visit, paying for professional advice doesn't feel that unreasonable, really. And I want to kind of relate that professional fees back to other professions. You don't see a solicitor or a lawyer without paying for their time. A plumber comes over, they charge for their site visit, regardless whether they're going to fix the solution or not, how much the problem is going to be fixed. So why can't we start charging? I mean, let's go back to the reason a site visit isn't really free. I'm going to ask you, think about everything that's involved every time you do a site visit to a client. You are initially responding to and qualifying that initial inquiry. You are then reading through the client's information, getting a bit of background on whether this is a good client for you and a good fit for you or not. You are traveling to and from the property to conduct the site visit. You are probably spending up to an hour, if not longer, on site, sharing ideas, sharing your experience, sharing your knowledge, giving professional recommendations on the space. You are taking measurements and photographs, or both. You are traveling home. You are then sending notes, a write-up, the estimates, the quote, the follow-up info, whatever it is that you're sending after that initial site visit. And then you're losing time that could have been spent working on the business or on paid work for the business. So a 1 hour site visit can easily consume at least, if not more, 3 hours of your working day when you take it all into account. So why do we, as landscapers and designers, give this away for free or at really low cost? And I believe it's because it's traditionally what the industry has always done. And particularly for landscapers, I get pushback on this all the time because so many competitors are doing free site visits, and that's kind of one of the hooks that they use in their marketing. Free, no obligation quote. Well, actually, that quote takes hours of your time, depending on how large the project is. But you can feel pressured into it because the competitors are doing it as well. We are also somewhat frightened that we'll lose a potential client, that they'll go elsewhere, that they'll go to a competitor that's free. But what I've always found in my business, in my landscaping business, when I've charged for the site visit, is that people are more likely to go with you when you do charge than when you don't. It also is a really good qualification tool because if they're not willing to pay even the smallest amount, and I mean, we began charging £35 a site visit. If they're not willing to part with that amount of money for what is hours of your time, then they are not really your ideal client, or that's how I chose to perceive it. We don't always distinguish between quoting and consulting. And what happens is we don't just provide a quote, we end up consulting with the client on their garden, whether that's design, build, both. You end up being a consultant, which honestly, you would charge a hell of a lot more. We tend to undervalue the knowledge and expertise that we actually hold, that we've built through years of experience, maybe through professional qualifications, maybe not. We want the job and feel that we have to do it for free in order to get it. And when the pipeline, your sales pipeline and inquiries coming in is quiet, you feel more compelled to say yes rather than say no, because no feels risky, no feels scary, no feels like you're saying no to any money coming in. We also get into this habit of offering lots and then not getting actually paid for it because you're creating a quote for a client that takes a considerable amount of time, but you're also consulting with them, helping the client work out what they need, why, what is possible, how they could move forward, and giving them loads and loads of ideas. Why shouldn't they pay for that privilege? Because you are solving their problem by way of consulting with them. You are advising on materials and shaping the project. You are generally consulting. You're not just providing a paper quote. The client is receiving quite a lot of value from you, even if they never employ you to do any of the work. So you need to bear that in mind first and foremost. And we need to really become very clear where our boundaries lie, because where is a free sales conversation? Where does that start and finish? And where does the paid professional service begin? So I want you to bear that in mind, because I believe charging for all site visits is imperative to getting better clients, not running around like a headless chicken, wasting your time on clients that are not your ideal client in the first place, and they don't value you anyway. And by not charging, you're really not valuing yourself. Now, as a landscaper, I get it. It's hard to charge when everyone else is free, but I used to utilize charging for site visits as a lead generation tool and a lead selection tool, if you like. So I never used to make money from the site visit because charging £35 to £55 for a site visit is kind of a loss leader because you've already spent that on fuel and your time. You know, it goes some way towards it, but it doesn't go all the way to covering your time and energy. But what it does do, it becomes not about making money from the site visit. Let me just be clear. It becomes about identifying who is genuinely serious about improving their property and working with you as a company. A client who's willing to invest at that initial stage where they haven't met you and they're willing to part with their money for you to come and impart your knowledge to them, they're more likely to value your service and they're more likely to go with you. It's kind of like a loss leader, for instance. So you could sell a product to someone for £10, maybe an online product you sell for £10. Once they've had that £10 product and they've started to see what you can do and how that works and how it's made a difference, they'll then more likely buy the next product from you that might be £50 and £100 and on we go. So when they buy from you first, no matter how small, they're more likely to go with you because they've already invested their time with you and their money. Now, it can also filter out people who are collecting free quotes and free ideas, free design ideas, or those that want to obtain at least 10 prices with no intention of actually proceeding with any one of them because they realise it's out of their budget or they just they were interested in finding out more. It reduces wasted visits, hence it stops you running around like a headless chicken, which most of us have done in our time as landscapers and garden designers. And by getting rid of the time wasters, it allows you more time to spend on better and bigger opportunities. And therefore, it improves the quality of your sales pipeline, even if the total number of inquiries fall. Now, people get really het up on lead generation. I've seen it a lot lately where people are panicking about leads and they just want more and more leads. They pay thousands of pounds to lead generation companies to generate more and more leads. What happens is you get low quality leads that are unlikely to spend the big bucks with you. Unlikely, not impossible, but unlikely. And then you end up running around like a headless chicken, quoting, most likely for free, because they need a hook to get in these leads. And then where are you at? Whereas I'd prefer to create my own leads, charge for my time so that it filters out the time wasters, which means you are left with better quality, more likely buyers that are going to buy from you. So it's not about the quantity of leads, it's about the quality of leads and protecting your time around that, because we could all have thousands of leads and run around for hours and hours of our day, not getting anywhere fast, or we could have a handful of leads that are high quality, more likely to buy, worth our time, bigger, better projects. Who doesn't want that? And you're not running around like headless chicken. And also, just because you've got more inquiries doesn't automatically mean you've got more sales. Better qualified inquiries are far more valuable to the business. Just keep that in mind when you're worried about your pipeline. And essentially, like I've touched upon, the effect of a client paying will improve their commitment no end. They're more likely to prepare for the meeting because they've paid for it. They've invested in it. They are more likely to attend, actually turn up, actually engage and make better decisions because they've paid for it. It becomes more professional because they've paid for it. They value it more. And charging can reposition you from someone coming to give a free quote to an experienced professional that they're paying for advice, for quality knowledge. So it immediately elevates you and elevates your worth and your value. And it can change the entire tone of a client relationship from step one. I know what you're going to say. Clients won't pay. Some people won't pay, and I've had my fair share of people that won't pay. I've also had people that have paid. We've gone to meet them and we don't want to work with them, so I've refunded them their money. That was interesting to see the change in the buyer psychology right there. But just because some people won't pay for you to visit them. Doesn't automatically make charging the wrong decision for your business. The aim is not to appeal to every client. It's to niche down and get the quality clients that most fit you, most suit your business. Okay. And the question is whether you want more site visits or more suitable clients. Always think about more suitable or more of rubbish inquiries. If the clients won't pay, review how the consultation is being explained. How are you selling this consultation? Are you just saying, oh, I'll come around for a site visit and a quote, that's going to be £100, please? Or are you saying, actually, I've been in the industry for over 15 years. I have a wealth of knowledge. Now, I would like to come and present that knowledge to you and help you in your decision to create this dream outdoor space. I will be spending an hour of your time. I need an hour of your time on site to discuss all your ideas. Then I'm going to go away and I'm going to put together a bespoke quote just for you. And it will detail everything I'm going to do. And it will give you the brief. And then I'll tell you how much your idea or project is going to cost. And then we can have another chat. You need to promote the experience, the knowledge, and the quality and the professionalism. For me, I would be saying, I'm going to give you I'm going to come back to you on a second visit. So you get 2 visits for this price to present to you the quote and how we're going to execute the project. How does that sound? Let's book it in now before I leave. So that gives you an in for a second meeting where you can sell the quote and the project and you to them, and they're getting 2 meetings for the price of 1, and you're presenting yourself as a wealth of knowledge. Okay. And just to be clear, you don't have to start charging £350. You don't have to start charging £35 like I did. You need to think about what you feel comfortable saying on the phone, because that's what I struggled with initially. I struggled with saying we charge for a site visit because we're just a landscaping company. Why would we charge? So you could approach it one of 2 ways. You could go in with a free call followed by a paid site visit. You could do a smaller fixed visit site fee like I did, like 35. I ended up charging about 54 in the end to get people in the door. Or you could do different fees based on different project types, size of it, or on how far you're traveling for the distance to see these clients. You could offer them an online consult, and then if they want to go ahead, a paid consultation on site that is paid for. You could deduct the consultation fee from the final project if the client proceeds. I would say no, because I think that devalues the time you've spent with them. But if that's what you want to try to improve the sales uptake, absolutely give it a go. You also need to make sure you explain that you will be providing a written quote or summary or recommendations after the site visit, so they get something physical after this paid site visit. And you'll be continuing to provide free quotations only if they're proceeding. So once they've paid for that site visit, yes, you're happy to discuss amend their quotes, etc., but it's not free forever. It's not a free for all at that point. So questions to ask yourself before adopting this paid for approach is, how many free site visits do you currently do a month? How many hours do they genuinely take? What percentage of them actually convert into paid work, whether that's design, build, whatever it is? What's the average value of those projects, and what's the profitability on the projects that you have completed of those that come from free site visits? How many visits are with clients that are not suitable, not ready, you don't want to work with? Because that's a very big question. Ask yourself, how much professional advice are you actually giving away every time you go and visit someone and talk to them for an hour? What could you provide that would make your consultation or site visit worth paying for? Think about that. Like I said, second site visit, a written quote, hand delivered. Think about how you can make yourself come across as professional as possible and worthwhile, valuable to that client. And how would charging, if you started charging for your site visits, how would it actually affect your pipeline? Test it, test and measure. I always say that, just test it and see how you go. When I started charging, I started at £100, didn't feel comfortable, moved to £60, didn't feel comfortable, went to 35, felt very comfortable, it didn't affect my pipeline, then moved up to 54, sorry. And that's where I sat for a long time. So have a play around, test it, measure it. Now, it's an important thing, a balance here. I'm not saying you have to charge. I'm not saying you have to, how much you have to charge. What I'm saying is consider charging to improve the quality of the leads you're getting. What works for a garden designer won't work for a landscaper and vice versa. So it needs to adapt to suit you and your business. Be mindful of your overheads. Have a look at your cash flow. I'll bang on about that again. Cash flow is key. Think about your location, who your ideal clients are, and what service you offer and what projects you're getting in and what you want to attract more of. Okay. The lesson isn't to copy somebody else's price. It's not to copy what I'm saying. It's not to copy the lady who's charging £350 as a garden designer, but it's to stop assuming that your time has no value. It's to stop thinking that you have to give free site visits just because everyone else does. And it's time to stop devaluing yourself and impacting on your business. Okay. So the final things I'm going to cover is your time, knowledge, and experience matters. They have much more value than before the physical work actually begins. Okay. Your free site visits should be a deliberate sales decision, not just a habit, not just born out of, well, we've always done it. Okay. If you choose to offer them, understand their true cost and qualify your clients properly, even if you choose to stay free. If you choose to charge, build a clear and valuable consultation service around the fee. Make sure you're adding value at every step and make sure you're adding professionalism at every step. Stop measuring your success by the number of inquiries you have, please. Start looking at the quality, the commitment of the client, the commercial value of the opportunities that are entering your sales pipeline. Okay, so quality over quantity every single day, and I've been saying that for about 9 years now. So the last thing I want you to do is review your last 5 site visits with all of the questions I said above. Calculate how much time they took, how many became profitable, how many were actually your ideal client. Be honest about whether your current approach is working or if it's simply just filling a diary and making you be a headless chicken. And finally, if you need help with any of this, reviewing your sales process, building a client journey, lead qualification, cash flow, sales review, whatever it might be, book in a free 15-minute discovery call with me. Because this is exactly the kind of practical work I help landscaping businesses and garden designers with. Okay. I help them improve their businesses through things like sales conversion, lead generation, pricing, cash flow, knowing the business, putting in systems, planning, all of the above. So if you want to grab a free discovery call, my email is paula@thelandscaperscoach.co.uk. Drop me an email. Follow me on Instagram @thelandscaperscoach. Also, give my podcast a review, share it with others that need to hear this, and I will see you next week on the next episode of the Limitless Landscapes podcast. Ciao.